reduced to insignificance when set
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. We are going to have a presentation on the Srimad Bhagavatam entitled Mysteries of the Sacred Universe. Before we start, we'll sing a bhajan in glorification of Shri Shri Radha and Krishna. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Girivaradari Jaya Girivaradari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Girivaradari Jaya Girivaradari Jaya Yashodanandana Jaya Brajana Ranjana Jaya Yashodanandana Jaya Brajana Ranjana Jaya Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama Hare Hare. Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madan Mohan Radha Madan Mohan Radhe. Jai Jai Radha Madan Mohan Radha Madan Mohan Radhe. Jaya Mahaprabhu Jaya Mahaprabhu Jaya Mahaprabhu Jaya Mahaprabhu. Jaya Gaura Nitai Jaya Gaura Nitai Jaya Gaura Nitai Jaya Gaura Nitai. Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha. Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada. Jaya Guru Deva Jaya Guru Deva Jaya Guru Deva Srila Guru Deva. Nittai Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nittai Gaura Hari Bol. Nittai Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nittai Gaura Hari Bol. जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस नितलीला प्रविष्ट परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर शत श्रीमद His Divine Grace Abhaychana Arvinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Namacharya Srila Thakur Haridas ki jai. प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासदि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय. श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन धाम की जय. ब्रजभूमि श्री वृंदावन मथुरा धाम की जय. श्री नवद्वीप मायापुर धाम की जय. Purushottam Kshetram Shri Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai, Shri Jagannath Swami Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Tulsi Maharani Ki Jai, Ganga Maiya Ki Jai, Yamuna Maiya Ki Jai, Samavaita Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai, Transcendental Book Distribution Ki Jai, Gaur Premanandi, Hari 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 Bol. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories, all glories, all glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Hare Krishna. Thank you all again for coming. So today's class, the topic of today's class is Vedic Cosmology. So, as you see here, this is the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is considered as the king of all scriptures, Grantharaj. In the fifth canto, it has 12 cantos. In the fifth canto of this work, the cosmology of the universe is explained with all the planetary systems and their orbits and how day and night and seasons are formed. Lot of details. Some of it we know now from modern science, but that's just like 200 years back with so much advancement in science. But this knowledge has been present in the Vedic age, 5,000 years back at least, and much, much more from that. These books were recorded 5,000 years back, but the knowledge itself has been prevalent for many millennia. So we are going to look at some of that knowledge. Do you have a copy of the Srimad Bhagavatam? You have? Do you have? Wonderful. You don't have? Just Bhagavad Gita, okay. Yeah. Hopefully you'll be inspired to get one after the session. Our goal is to present the treasure of knowledge that's there in these books when there are no modern instruments, which means the sages had the wisdom to gain that knowledge through other means. Vedic knowledge is not experimental knowledge. It's revealed by the Lord when one is sincere in their devotional service. That's how knowledge is gained. By service, one gains knowledge. That's the Vedic process. It's called descending process. And all knowledge is there in the scriptures. So one has to serve a guru and receive the knowledge under their guidance. So that's how it's called Guru Parampara. That's how the knowledge is received. And that's how Srila Prabhupada received this knowledge in the Guru Parampara and has given it to us in the form of these translations. And even those are hard for us. So his disciples have translated and written further books. Srila Prabhupada predicted that my disciples will write purports to my books. So this is one such book here. It's called Mysteries of the Sacred Universe, which unpacks some of the mysteries in the fifth canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. It's written by one of Srila Prabhupada's disciples named Sadaputta Das. His legal name was Richard Thompson. He's no more, but he passed away in 2008. But he has given such a tremendous treasure for us to benefit from. So these descriptions, there are some descriptions elsewhere, but the majority of the description starts from the 16th chapter of the 5th canto of the Bhagavatam. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Narayanam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudirayet Shinvatam Svakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Hridyantasto Bhadrani Vidunoti Suhrit Satam Nashta Prayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Ruttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. We'll read from the first verse of this chapter. Rajo-Vacha. I'll say the whole thing. Uktastvaya bhumandalayama vishesho yavad adityastapati yatra chaso jyotisham ganes Chandramma va sahadrishyate. Synonyms. Rajo-Vacha. Maharaj Parikshit said. Ukta, already been said. Tvaya, by you. Bhumandala, of the planetary system known as Bhumandala. Ayama Visheshaha, the specific length of the radius. Yavat, as far as. Adityaha, the sun. Tapati, heats. Yatra, wherever. Cha, also. Aso, that. Jyotisham, of the luminaries. Ganai, with hordes. Chandramma, the moon. Va, either. Saha, with. Drishyate, is seen. Translation. King Parikshit said to Shukadev Goswami, O Brahmana, you have already informed me that the radius of Bhumandala extends as far as the sun spreads its light and heat, and as far as the moon and all the stars can be seen. Please repeat. King Parikshit said to Shukadev Goswami, O Brahmana, you have already informed me that the radius of Bhumandala extends as far as the sun spreads its light and heat, and as far as the moon and all the stars can be seen. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada ki Jai. In this verse, is that good? In this verse, it is stated that the planetary system known as Bhumandala extends to the limits of the sunshine. According to modern science, the sunshine reaches Earth from a distance of 93 million miles. If we calculate according to this modern information, 93 million miles can be considered the radius of Bhumandala. In the Gayatri Mantra, we chant Om Bhur Bhuvasva. The word Bhur refers to Bhumandala. Tat Savitur Varenyam The sunshine spreads throughout Bhumandala. Therefore, the sun is worshipable. The stars, which are known as nakshatra, are not different suns, as modern astronomers suppose. From Bhagavad Gita 10:21, we understand that the stars are similar to the moon, nakshatranam aham shashi. Like the moon, the stars reflect the sunshine. Apart from our modern distinguished estimations of where the planetary systems are located, we can understand that the sky and its various planets were studied long before Srimad Bhagavatam was compiled. Shukadeva Goswami explained the location of the planets, and this indicates that the information was known long before Shukadeva Goswami related it to Maharaj Parikshit. The location of the various planetary systems was not unknown to the sages who flourished in the Vedic age. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitamena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitamena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavangsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunathanvitam Tang Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitangsha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namosute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarubhesha Kripa Sindhubhe Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasati Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimate Indridhima Swamanita Namane Namo Prabhupada Priyadasaya Jagannatha Yatrananda Murte Bhakta Sukaya Krishnot Kirtanena Nashringena Rakshitaya Namaha. So we can see in this verse how Srila Prabhupada uses relevant information from modern science, and at the same time doesn't hesitate to contradict. He does both in this verse. He says, according to modern science, the sunshine reaches at this. So he's using that information and calculating, and because the verse itself in this part doesn't explain, it explains in a qualitative manner, it doesn't explain quantitatively. That's explained later on, but here Srila Prabhupada is using that information, but at the same time, it doesn't mean that we accept everything modern science says. For us, the authority is the Shastra. And then wherever it matches modern science, we say, yes, we already knew it. To increase the faith of the people who are hearing it, so that they can appreciate the full amount of knowledge is there in the Vedic literature. At the same time, when there is contradiction, we don't hesitate to call out those, as Prabhupada says, the stars which are known as nakshatra are not different suns, as the modern astronomers suppose. So, this is the beauty of Srila Prabhupada's mood and presentation. He doesn't contradict modern science just for the sake of contradicting or say that everything is bad. Sometimes his disciples may even say, in some of the conversations, he say that's wrong, but it's not wrong, it's just imperfect. Some parts are correct, not everything is correct. Just because some parts are correct, it doesn't justify that we take all the knowledge from modern science. So our primary reference is the Shastra. We go by that. And whichever parts happen to match with modern science, we just say that, so that to increase the faith of the hearers, that that information is already available long before. So as Srila Prabhupada says, yes, we may know some information now, but the beauty of the Bhagavatam is that these were spoken without any of the instruments or the experimental knowledge through which we learn now. So that's the real glory of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Again, this is only one of the aspects. There are several other glories of the Srimad Bhagavatam, but these are some things we can relate with because of the ability to relate with things around us. So, and as the Bhagavatam proceeds, there are a lot of verses that are talking about several themes and information. Not all of this we can relate with. I'll show some of the verses here that explains. And you can see here, Shukadeva Goswami is so humble. He says, "My dear king, there is no limit to the expansion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead's material energy. This material world is a transformation of the material qualities, Sattva-Guna, Rajo-Guna and Tamo-Guna. Yet no one could possibly explain it perfectly, even in a lifetime as long as that of Brahma. No one in the material world is perfect, and an imperfect person could not describe this material universe accurately, even after continued speculation. O king, I shall nevertheless try to explain you the principal regions such as Puloka with their names, forms, measurements and various symptoms." So he's presenting that with that understanding that nobody can describe everything fully because there is no limit to the expansion of the Supreme God's material energy. So ultimately we are not trying here to say that I've found everything. That's not the goal. The goal is to appreciate the Lord's material energy by understanding portions of it that we can understand. And you can see that that's the continued focus of this fifth canto of the Bhagavatam, despite the fact that there are so many numbers, so many astronomical concepts presented. Shukadeva Goswami comes back to this point again and again when he's describing, for example, the different locations. He just doesn't give material information about that, but he also talks about how the residents of those planets are actually worshipping the Supreme Lord. So everywhere he brings it back to that focus, which is the Supreme Lord. And many times he says, he quotes the learned scholars. He quotes, according to the learned scholars, this is the information. He doesn't claim that, according to me, that's the information, because that's how knowledge is received. So as we proceed through the discussion of this Bhumandala, that which is the subject of today, so here next word, the planetary system known as Bhumandala resembles a lotus flower, and its 7 islands resemble the whorl of that flower. The length and breadth of the island known as Jambudvipa, which is situated in the middle of the whorl, are 1 million yojanas, 8 million miles. Jambudvipa is round like the leaf of a lotus flower. So, how wide is the Earth? The Earth planet that we know? 8,000 miles. Yeah, whereas here it's talking about the area of Jambudvipa is 8 million miles. So obviously, it's not referring to the Earth that we live in. It's explaining much more concepts. In Jambudvipa, there are 9 divisions of land, each with a length of 9,000 yojanas. There are 8 mountains that mark the boundaries of these divisions and separate them nicely. Amidst these divisions are Varshas, is a Varsha named Ilavrata, which is situated in the middle of the whorl of the lotus. Within Ilavrata Varsha is Sumeru mountain, which is made of gold. Sumeru mountain is like the pericarp of the lotus-like Bhumandala planetary system. The mountain's height is the same as the width of the Jambudvipa, or in other words, 100,000 yojanas. Of that, 16,000 yojanas are within the earth, and therefore the mountain's height above the earth is 84,000 yojanas. The mountain's width is 32,000 yojanas, and its summit, and 16,000 yojanas at its base. So here you can see the usage of the word earth if 128,000 miles of Sumeru has to be within the earth, that means Earth's diameter has to be that big, but it's not. So that's another important aspect of the Bhagavatam, which we'll focus on today. There are several concepts being explained here, so we need to understand that with care. As you see, some of these heights and distances are far out. Then we may conclude that it's talking about something completely different and it's not related to the world we see. However, in other parts of the verses, for example, the next chapter talks about the river Ganges. This verse that says, similarly, the branch of the Ganges known as Alakananda flows from the southern side of Brahmapuri. Passing over the tops of mountains in various lands, it falls down with fierce force upon the peaks of the mountains Hemakota and Himakota. After inundating the tops of those mountains, the Ganges falls down onto the tract of land known as Bharatavarsha, which she also inundates. Then the Ganges flows into the ocean of salt water in the south. Persons who come to bathe in this river are fortunate. It is not very difficult for them to achieve with every step the results of performing great sacrifices like Rajasuya and Ashwamedha Yagyas. Now, is this the Ganges that we know, or is it a different realm? Because it talks about Bharatavarsha, and let's look at the purport. Srila Prabhupada says, the place where the Ganges flows into the salt water of the Bay of Bengal is still known as Ganga Sagara, or the meeting place of the Ganges and the Bay of Bengal. On Makara Sankranti, in the month of January, February, thousands of people still go there to bathe, hoping to be liberated. That they can actually be liberated in this way is confirmed herein. For those who bathe in the Ganges at any time, the results of great sacrifices like Ashwamedha and Rajasuya Yagya are not at all difficult to achieve. Most people in India are still inclined to bathe in the Ganges, and there are many places where they can do so. At Prayag, Allahabad, many thousands of people gather during the month of January to bathe in the confluence of the Ganges and Yamuna. Afterward, many of them go to the confluence of the Bay of Bengal and the Ganges to take bath there. Thus, it is a special facility for all the people of India that they can bathe in the water of the Ganges at so many places of pilgrimage. So if you read the rest of the chapter of the Ganges, it's talking about like a heavenly realm, the sizes and the dimensions and everything. But still, it talks about the Ganges that we know of, and Srila Prabhupada is referring to those in the purport. And then further, if you look in the next chapter, the Bharatavarsha is generally considered the great region of India. In the tract of land known as Bharatavarsha, as in Ilavartavarsha, there are many mountains and rivers. Some of the mountains are known as Malaya, Mangalaprastha, Mainaka, Trikuta, Rishabha, Kutaka, Kollaka, Sahya, Devagiri, Rishyamukha, Sri Shaila, Venkata, Mahendra, Varidhara, Vindhya, Shuktiman, Rikshagiri, Pariyatra, Drona, Chitrakuta, Govardhana, Raivataka, Kakuba, Neela, Gokamukha, Indrakila and Kamagiri. Besides these, there are many other hills with many large and small rivers flowing from their slopes. Two of the rivers, the Brahmaputra and the Shona, are called Nadas, or main rivers. There are also other great rivers that are very prominent: Chandravasa, Tamraparni, Avatoda, Kritamala, Vaihayasi, Kaveri, Veni, Payasvini, Sharkaravarta, Tungabhadra, Krishna Venya, Bhimarati, Godavari, Nirvindya, Payoshni, Tapi, Reva, Surasa, Narmada, Charmanvati, Mahanadi, Vedasmriti, Rishikulya, Trisama, Kaushiki, Mandakini, Yamuna, Saraswati, Drishadvati, Gomati, Sarayu, Rodasvati, Saptavati, Shushoma, Shatadru, Chandrabhaga, Murudvrida, Vitasta, Asikni, and Vishwa. The inhabitants of Bharatavarsha are purified because they always remember these rivers. Sometimes they chant the names of these rivers as mantras, and sometimes they go directly to the rivers to touch them and bathe in them. Thus the inhabitants of Bharatavarsha become purified. So before we worship the Lord, we do achaman, we sip water. In order to purify the water, we chant the mantras that Srila Prabhupada is saying. We say, Gangeche Yamune Chaiva, Godavari Saraswati, Narmade Sindhu Kaveri, Jalesmin Sanandim Kuru. So we invite the holy rivers to reside in that water and purify so that it's fit for worship of the Lord. So that this practice and the names of these rivers that's given in the Bhagavatam, we can see still, we can relate with many of these rivers. So, right? So you can see the both dimensions here. One is talking about the things like millions of miles of height and distances which are astronomically high, and also things that we can relate with. And moving on, I'm just giving a synopsis of the information in various chapters, and especially trying to highlight the problem that we have as people in Kali Yuga, trying to deal with this varied information, and how this book is providing a framework for us to understand all this apparent contradictions or diverse information. So, in the middle of that land is a great mountain named Manasatora, which forms a boundary between the inner circle and outer side of the island. Its breadth and height are 10,000 yojanas. On that mountain is in the four directions of the residential quarters of demigods such as Indra. In the chariot of the sun god, the sun travels on top of the mountain in an orbit called the Samvatsara, encircling Mount Meru. The sun's path on the northern side is called Uttarayana, and its path on the southern side is called Dakshinayana. One side represents the day for the demigods, and the other represents their night. So this talks about the sun as we know it. You are familiar with the terms Uttarayana, Dakshinayana? So right now, which ayana we are in? Yeah, until Sankranti, we are in the southern part. And there's an entire chapter devoted to the movements of the sun. So this is part of our initial focus will be mainly on this chapter. For example, here in this verse it says, in the midst of the region of outer space, Antariksha is the most opulent sun, the king of all planets that emanate heat such as the moon. By the influence of its radiation, the sun heats the universe and maintains its proper order. It also gives light to help all living entities see. While passing toward the north, toward the south, or through the equator, in accordance with the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, it is said to move slowly, swiftly, or moderately. According to its movements in rising above, going beneath, or passing through the equator, and correspondingly coming in touch with various signs of the zodiac headed by Makara, Capricorn, days and nights are short, long, or equal to one another. So this is something we relate with, right? In the summer, days are longer, in the winter, days are shorter, and in the equinoxes, like March and October, they are like equal, like solstices. Yes.
So does it mean that the sun's orbit is a circle, right?
Right.
Like we were given to understand the days are long and short because it's oval, right? Like that.
Right. Yeah, there's some difference in the understanding. Right. Huh. So similarly, it goes on, when the sun passes through Mesha, Aries, and Tula, Libra, the durations of day and night are equal. Those are the solstices. When it passes through the 5 signs headed by Rishabha, Taurus, the durations of the day increases until Cancer, and then it gradually decreases by half an hour each month until day and night again become equal in Libra. So like that. So it talks about things we can relate with in this world, and we are observing all this phenomenon. So as you can see, but also again, not everything we can relate with. Later on in this chapter, we'll see the sun, or maybe before. Yeah, it talks about the chariot of the sun. Yeah. Yeah. For example, the chariot of the sun god has only one wheel, which is known as Samvatsara. The 12 months are calculated to be its 12 spokes, the 6 seasons are the sections of its rim, and the 3 Chaturmasya periods are its 3-section hub. One side of the axle carrying the wheel rests upon the summit of Mount Meru, and the other rests upon Manasutara mountain. Affixed to the outer end of the axle, the wheel continuously rotates on Manasutara mountain like the wheel of an oil pressing machine. Like that, it goes on. So we cannot, obviously we don't see the sun with the wheel when we are here. So how do we understand these? If we say everything is not explainable, that's like rejecting too much. Things we can relate with can be explained. Like that. And then yeah, the next chapter also talks about the various orbits of the planets, the sun, the moon, the Mercury. There are a lot of information given here which we can relate with in terms of what we know from modern science. So, as we are studying these chapters, there are a lot of questions that come up here. For example, what is Bhumandala? Is it the earth or is it something bigger? What is Jambudvipa? Because there are kind of different descriptions of Jambudvipa in the verses. What is Bharatavarsha? Is it just India or is it the earth planet? And is the earth flat? Because there's nowhere Bhagavatam directly mentions that the earth is a globe. But it does indirectly. For example, in one of the verses here, the living entities residing on Sumeru mountain are always very warm as at midday, because for them the sun is always overhead. Although the sun moves counterclockwise, facing the constellations, with Sumeru mountain on its left, it also moves clockwise and appears to have the mountain on its right, because it's influenced by the Dakshinavrata wind. People living in countries at points diametrically opposite to where the sun is first seen rising will see the sun setting. And if a straight line were drawn from a point where the sun is at midday, the people in countries at the opposite end of the line would be experiencing midnight. Similarly, if people residing where the sun is setting were to go to countries diametrically opposite, they would not see the sun in the same condition. So, like in modern astronomy, or in the modern world, this information was not known until very recently, that the earth is a sphere and it has all these properties. But you can see in the Bhagavatam, this has been mentioned long back. Now, so like that. So because, but it doesn't say explicitly the nature of earth. And similarly, does Earth revolve on its own axis? Because that's what we hear from modern science, but there's no such information, because here it says the sun moves to create day and night. So these are like big questions. What causes day and night? What causes the seasons? And again, the conception of geocentrism versus heliocentrism. So the Bhagavatam does talk about these things, and any other question you may have. So that's as we are studying these chapters, it raises all these questions. So as I said, this book, The Mysteries of the Sacred Universe, this is by Sadaputta Prabhu, one of Srila Prabhupada's disciple. He provides a nice framework to understand these. It's there's a shorter version of this. If you don't have the book, you can just read through this article in krishna.com. Just look in the krishna.com/universe-vedas. So there is a description of what most of what we are going to cover in the rest of the session will be. So he basically provides a framework for us to deal with this multidimensional model. And even after I've been reading this book for several years, I've been probably getting a little bit each time, and I have postponed trying to get into the details of it. But now we have our Bhakti Vaibhav exam that we have to write in 2 weeks. So I'm forced to study, and that's part of the reason why we arrange this class, so that our group can also benefit from this session, and most importantly, I can benefit from forcing myself to study this in detail. But actually, when we study this in detail, it gives us so much understanding of the different models that Sadaputta Prabhu talks about in this, and appreciate the Bhagavatam even more, and not be so worried about the contradictions which I was trying to point out earlier. Because I know during the course, we were like 6 months we were studying, we didn't have that much clarity, because without this model, again, we knew this model exists, but we didn't go deep enough to understand how it fits in. So unless we go deep enough, things will remain a contradiction. But when we try to understand it in depth, it really helps to know that actually the richness of the Bhagavatam. So, as I said, even the book is a little technical, but luckily for layman like me, so Sadaputta Prabhu has also made a wonderful video explaining some of these concepts. So, I thought for the remainder of the session, we can try to answer some of these questions and try to put a framework. Again, all these references are there in the internet. You can go through it at leisure. We won't be covering everything here, but this is just to introduce to this work and the concept behind it. So if you get that much, then that is good for this session. So I let Sadaputta Prabhu speak for himself. It's he does an excellent job of presenting it, and then I'll pause periodically to add any additional comments related to the verses that we discussed. And also, if you have any questions where you want to pause, please let me know. I like it to be interactive, because this video is there. You can, even if you don't, I don't intend to complete the whole video. I just go to sections of it. So feel free to stop.
The way we view the universe has a profound impact on our understanding of ourselves. Today we see the Earth as a small, fragile globe, orbiting at just the right distance from the Sun for life to flourish. It appears to be the only planet with life in the solar system, and the planets themselves are mere specks in the vacuum of space. Human life seems reduced to insignificance when set against the vast, nearly empty spaces of modern astronomy.
The background music for this was done by Badahari Prabhu.
But before the modern era, the universe appeared much more comfortable and accommodating. Thus, medieval European cosmology placed the Earth in the center of a small spherical universe surrounded by the abode of God and the elect. In this study, we will explore an early Earth-centered conception of the cosmos from India. This cosmological system is presented in the Bhagavata Purana, or Srimad Bhagavatam, one of India's important sacred texts. We begin with a brief outline of this system. First of all, the Bhagavatam describes innumerable universes. Each one is contained in a spherical shell surrounded by layers of elemental matter that mark the boundary between mundane space and the unlimited spiritual world. The region within the shell is called the Brahmanda, or Brahma egg. It contains an earth disk called Bhumandala that divides it into an upper heavenly half and a subterranean half filled with amniotic water. Although Bhumandala literally means the circle or mandala of the earth, it has little in common with the earth on which we stand. The diameter of Bhumandala is given in the Bhagavatam, and it is about the size of the orbit of Uranus. Bhumandala is divided into a series of geographic features called oceans and islands. But these are geometrically perfect rings of cosmic size with no resemblance to irregular earthly continents. In the center of Bhumandala is the circular island of Jambudvip, with 9 subdivisions called Varshas. These include Bharatavarsha, which can be understood in one sense as India, and in another as the total area inhabited by ordinary human beings. Jambudvip is centered on the geometrically shaped Sumeru mountain, which represents the world axis and is surmounted by the city of Brahma, the universal creator. The Bhagavatam presents astronomy in geographical and mythological language, and the mode of presentation is different from the familiar modern approach. Although the earth disk of Bhumandala may look naively unrealistic, careful study shows that the Bhagavatam uses it to represent at least 4 different reasonable and consistent models. These are 1. A polar projection map of the Earth globe. 2. A map of the solar system. 3. Topographical map of South Central Asia. 4. A map of the celestial realm of the demigods.
So these are the 4 models as pointed out in the krishna.com link. You can go through the details of each of the 4 models. So as Prabhu was saying, the Bhagavatam simultaneously talks about these 4 aspects. It's not that it's one or the other. That's why earlier the kind of contradictions pointed out. That's because it talks about these 4 models simultaneously in because of, the culture of the Bhagavatam was that people understood it that way. So there was no problem in trying to explain, but we need explanation.
There are bound to be contradictions when one structure is used to represent several different things in a composite map. But these do not cause a problem if we understand the underlying intent. We can draw a parallel with medieval paintings portraying several different parts of a story in one composition. This painting shows St. Peter in 3 different parts of a biblical story. Here is a similar painting from India showing 3 different parts of a story about Krishna. Such paintings contain apparent contradictions, such as the images of one character in different places. But a person who understands the storyline will not be disturbed by this.
Does it make sense? So this is the overall strategy. You can say how Sadaputta Prabhu dissects these verses. As you can see in this example, who is familiar with this pastime of Krishna? Can you recognize? you want to say what it is?
So Brahma gets puffed up when he's just thinking, who is this little boy Krishna, and why is everybody just glorifying him and thinking him to be the supreme personality of Godhead? So one day what he does is that when Krishna goes out with the cowherd boys to herd the cows, he hides all the gopas and the cows. And Krishna sees that, and he knows that Brahma is doing it. So what he does is that by his mystic potency, he expands himself into as many cowherd boys and the cows. And all this took a very short time from the Brahma's perspective, but on the earth planet was a longer time. And so we see that because they were all expansions of Krishna, so when the calves returned home, because Krishna was younger in age, I think 5, so he was only allowed to herd the calves and not the cows. So when the calves returned home, then the cows were actually loving them even more, and the Gopas' parents were also loving their kids even more because they were actually Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. And then when Brahma comes back and he sees that this is what is happening, that's when his eyes open, and then he, begs for forgiveness like that.
Thank you so much. So you can see there are parts of the story illustrated here in a single painting. Can you recognize the different parts of the story? What does this part seem? So you're asking for forgiveness, and here what does Brahma do? Yeah, this is the cave, and then these are the boys here. He's putting them in the cave, and what's happening over here? Yeah, this is the having the lunch part. So actually this is the beginning of the story. So Krishna, there's no Brahma here. This Krishna is having lunch, picnic with his friends. Then Brahma comes and steals them. And then later on the story happens, and finally it ends with forgiveness. So if you're not familiar with the story, you see what kind of a painting is this, Brahma is in 2 places, Krishna is in 2 places, these boys are all over here. I don't understand anything. It doesn't make sense. Right? We quickly reject that, hey, it's all contradictory, I don't understand this. But if you know the story, then you appreciate how the painter has created a single painting to convey a complex story and the vital parts of the story. So this is the strategy that Sadaputta Prabhu employs in deciphering these verses, that the Bhagavatam is talking about multiple things at once in a common like a platform. But just because it's presented in one form doesn't mean that all of them apply to everything. For example, when you talk about one scene, that there are like so many differences between the 3 scenes, but it's all in the same painting. So like that's why it's in the same book and same structure, but it's talking simultaneously about multiple aspects of the reality. So that's the strategy he employs to unpack the meaning. So this means, one of the things as it'll come next, I'll explain for the connection is, so when you talk about this, you temporarily ignore these parts of the picture. You focus on this part. Doesn't mean that these parts are not there, just that you are not focusing on those in order to explain this. Similarly, when you are explaining this, you are not focusing on these parts of the picture because your focus is to explain this part. And then when you explain this, you ignore the other parts temporarily so that you explain this part. So focus is here. But none of them are wrong. Just because you're ignoring temporarily, it doesn't mean that the other things are wrong. Everything has a place and there is a way to understand it. So that's his strategy. So he's a genius actually. So to recognize this and then present to us this way. So
contradictions, such as the images of one character in different places. But a person who understands the storyline will not be disturbed by this. As source material, we will refer to the Bhagavat Purana and to several important commentaries on this text by traditional Indian scholars. We will also refer to the great Indian epic, the Mahabharata, to other sacred texts, including the Vishnu Purana, and to important Indian astronomical works, such as the Surya Siddhanta. Bhumandala as a planisphere. We begin by discussing the interpretation of Bhumandala as a planisphere, a polar projection map of the Earth globe. Each important interpretation of Bhumandala is obtained by focusing on a cluster of Bhumandala features and temporarily ignoring features outside the cluster. In this case,
does it make sense? So that's why he showed the picture earlier. When you focus on one part, you temporarily ignore that. So here, each of the red dots, think of it as a particular verse of the Bhagavatam in this section. Different verses talk about different aspects of the one reality. But when you're focusing on explaining one thing, you temporarily ignore the other ones. It doesn't mean that they are incorrect or not there, but for this explanation, they are not relevant for this particular part. So you're temporarily ignoring this. And similarly, each of the cluster of verses support one of the four models. So if you understand these are the four models being presented, and then we can see which model this verse is talking about, then all contradictions are resolved. Then you're not looking for the wrong thing in the wrong model. You know, okay, this model is talking about this particular aspect, this is talking about this aspect, and then you can appreciate the wholeness of it. And so that's why he gave the picture earlier, to understand what this strategy that's being employed here. And by feature, for example, one feature is that the sun moves at a certain speed. Like as we read, the sun moves at certain speed, and then elsewhere it says the sun moves at 3 speeds, and elsewhere it talks about like a higher dimension of 100,000 yojanas, whereas it also talks about the Godavari and Narmada that we know about that are much shorter. You know, it talks about India, it talks about Earth, it talks about the greater Bhumandala. So each dot is a verse, or he calls it as a feature. Roughly, you can say feature is a particular aspect of a verse or a verse. So for each of the model, you focus on certain aspect and then understand the underlying intent behind those verses, and then look at those verses with that intent. Then you don't lose the context.
And temporarily ignoring features outside the cluster. In this case, note that the ring-shaped islands and oceans of Bhumandala have widely varying scales as defined in the Bhagavatam. For now, we ignore this. The planisphere interpretation of Bhumandala requires that we give them all equal width. In fact, this is commonly done in diagrams of Bhumandala, such as this one, dating to the early 19th century. Bhumandala with equalized rings can be seen as a stereographic projection of a spherical Earth. Stereographic projection is an ancient method of mapping points on the surface of a sphere to points on a plane. This method can be applied to map a modern Earth globe onto a plane. This flat projection is called a planisphere. Bhumandala can likewise be viewed as a stereographic projection of a globe. Such globes exist in India. Here is one that was probably commissioned by Sawai Jai Singh, Raja of Jaipur, in the early 18th century. In this globe, the land area between the equator and the mountain arc is Bharatavarsha, corresponding to Greater India. India is well represented, but apart from a few references to neighboring places, this globe does not give a realistic map of the Earth. It was clearly intended for astronomical rather than geographical purposes.
So that's a very, very important statement. It took a long time for me to figure out why he keeps saying that. In the book also he says that it's intended for astronomical, not geographical. So what that means is, because as you see, that the feature that's being ignored here is the actual dimensions of the various islands. because in actuality they are all 2x of each other. But for this model, you pretend that they're all just concentric circles, not take the actual dimension, and then map that entire Bhumandala onto a globe using this thing. Which means here the goal is not to explain that this is next to each other, or that's not the point. The point here is to explain how this part of the verses assume a planisphere interpretation, and then they explain things that we can observe in the earth using this model. Does it make sense? So even though, as I said, even though it's talking about like a flat, even the Bhagavatam looks like it's talking about a flat reality here, what he's saying is it's actually talking about our earth. But it's talking about it in this terms. But if you temporarily ignore the sizes and map it into this spherical shape, is actually these features are talking about earth, like day and night and seasons, how they happen on earth. So that's the connection there. So that's why you have to ignore those features too. But that's why he's saying the purpose of this is to explain the astronomical events, not to explain the geography of earth using this model. If you use this model and say that, hey, if this is the Jambudvipa, then is Plakshadvipa in South America, or the Shakadvipa in Antarctica, you can't argue like that, because the purpose is not to map each of these and say that this is this part in earth. That's not the purpose of this. It's not the geographical, that's not the goal. It's to show how these verses talk about earth as a globe and explain the day and night and seasons. That's the scope of this interpretation. After that, you don't use that for the other models.
Such globes exist in India. This globe, apart from a few references to neighboring places, this globe does not give a realistic map of the earth. It was clearly intended for astronomical rather than geographical purposes. Here is another globe showing Jambudvip. Note that Jambudvip is mapped into the northern hemisphere on these globes. Although the Bhagavatam does not explicitly describe the earth as a globe, it does so indirectly. For example, it points out that night prevails diametrically opposite to a point where it is day. Likewise, there is sunset opposite a point where the sun is rising. According to the Bhagavatam, the sun orbits just above Bhumandala on its chariot. Taken literally, the sun's rays should spread out smoothly over the plain of Bhumandala, leaving no points of sunrise or sunset, and no area in total darkness. This seems to contradict the Bhagavatam's statement about day and night at diametrically opposite points. But there is no...
So do you see the contradiction? So if the sun were literally going over a literal plane, then you cannot have this day and night effect. But the Bhagavatam does talk about that moment, as well as talks about the day and night diametrically opposite, as we saw. So that's why we need to reconcile that by understanding the context for each of the verses.
Contradiction if we adopt the planisphere interpretation of Bhumandala. To see this, consider the equator, the Tropic of Cancer, the Tropic of Capricorn, and the sun's path called the ecliptic. These circles are mapped on a globe as we see here. The sun is always directly above some point on the ecliptic, and the globe rotates relative to the sun plus ecliptic once per day. The sun also slowly moves along the ecliptic, making one circuit per year. The seasons result from the sun's northward and southward movement on the tilted ecliptic circle. These four circles project stereographically as shown here. The ecliptic projects onto an off-centered circle in the planisphere map, and the sun...
I'll pause here. This is the most important part of this explanation. So I just want to make sure everybody's on the same page here. So there are these three circles, the Tropic of Cancer at the top, equator, and the Tropic of Capricorn. and then the sun's path as observed at the midpoint on Earth at various places. So that is this cross thing called ecliptic, right? So this is what happens in the 3D. Now when you talk about that in 2D, you need to map them just like when we have an actual literal map. Even though the Earth is a globe, when we look at a literal map, it's in 2D. And Japan is here, and Alaska is here. We think they are like so far apart. No, we know there is a path there. It's actually they are closer on the other side. Even though on the map, in this side it's so far apart, but in reality there is a connection on the other side which we don't see because they're 2D. So we don't lose that context while using a 2D map, right? So similarly here, the actual these circles are on the 3D like this, but when it gets mapped to a planisphere. A planisphere is basically, as mentioned in one of the earlier things, is let's say you keep the North Pole here, and then imagine like you are like flattening out, not like how you flatten out a chapati, because there both poles are in the center. Here it's like, think of it as like you are like removing it's like a ball, and you're removing the like South Pole and then stretching it out like that. That's essentially the polar projection, which means North Pole is in the center, and essentially South Pole is actually the last point on the South Pole is the entire circumference. That one point becomes the entire outer periphery. So this is different from in a regular map. We just project it as 2D. This is also 2D, but in a regular map it's a more of, I don't know what the name is, but rectangular thing where everything is there, but there is a connection there. But planisphere means you take the 3D globe and represent it as a 2D. And now let's recognize these circles. What is this circle here? Cancer. And the second one? Equator. And the third one? Capricorn. And then this off-center one? Elliptical. Now, one important thing to observe here is, so here Tropic of Cancer and Tropic of Capricorn are of equal circumference, right? Look at here what happened. We said this is the Tropic of Cancer and this is the Tropic of Capricorn. This is so small and this is so large. Why is that? Because remember, we pulled it from the bottom. So that means the ones that are closer to the North Pole don't get stretched. The ones that are further away from the North Pole, they get stretched. Right? So that's why this thing is stretched. I'll explain why that's important to the understanding of a later verse. But this is the model basically. All three circles get projected like this. And now the ecliptic is the path of the sun represented here. And then we'll continue the rest of the explanation.
The ecliptic projects onto an off-centered circle in the planisphere map. And the sun's position on this map corresponds to the point on the Earth globe where the sun is at the zenith. The terminator, or boundary between day and night, is a great circle on the globe that is perpendicular to the sun's zenith position.
So as you can see, when Bhagavatam describes diametrically opposite places have this effect, now we can understand where it is coming from. Because in the 3D, it corresponds to the other side of the sun. So even though, we can say, even though literally the sun is here, why would the sun just stop abruptly here? Why would it not go further? That's what he was arguing earlier. If it was literally a plane, just like even if the light is in the corner of the room, it uniformly spreads and dissipates and comes down to the end. There is no sharp termination that after this point there is no sun, there is no light. You cannot have it on a single plane. Whereas here, since it's on the other side of the globe, because it's a projection, now we can say that yes, even though the sun is moving in this way, it causes the day and night like this.
It projects stereographically onto a circular arc on the planisphere that rotates once every 24 hours. At the equinoxes, this arc becomes a straight line. At the solstices, it bends so that the north polar region is illuminated in the northern summer, or in darkness in northern winter.
So that's important to understand. So look at pay attention to this curve and how it changes depending on when the sun is closer to the Tropic of Cancer, and see how it becomes concave when it goes to the Capricorn, and when the sun is in the equator, it becomes a straight line. So I'll play this again. You can see also like here. Now when the sun is closer, it's a straight line. Here when it's further, it's concave. So basically it goes through these three things. So that's why the North Pole is either entirely dark for parts of the year or entirely lit for parts of the year, depending on where the sun is at that particular time.
At the equinoxes, this arc becomes a straight line. At the solstices, it bends so that the North Polar region is illuminated in the northern summer or in darkness in northern winter. The passage of day and night is described in the Bhagavatam as a straight terminator rotating over a plane map, as we see here. Although this does not make sense in a literal plane, it is realistic in the planisphere model, and thus it adds weight to this model.
So yeah, essentially the Bhagavatam describes like this, as we saw in earlier verse. But the way to understand is not thinking that it's talking about a literal plane, and then understand it that it applies to a projection, polar projection map.
Here we see the ecliptic and the zodiac projected stereographically onto the Earth map. The Sun and zodiac revolve clockwise together once per day, while the Sun moves counterclockwise around the zodiac once per year. Here the zodiac is projected stereographically onto Bhumandala. Note that as the Sun goes around the off-centered zodiac in its yearly orbit, it crosses the ring-shaped islands and oceans of Bhumandala. This ocean-crossing motion is described in the Puranas.
So, this is another important part of the Bhagavatam where it describes the sun has a daily motion and it also has a yearly motion. So the daily motion is clockwise, which is this way, and the yearly motion is anti-clockwise. Right? So here, this white ring represents the zodiac, which is all the constellations, the stars configuration, and it's not too clear here, but in the book and in the website that will be clear. But these are the names of the different signs like Capricorn, Cancer, Aries, Libra, like that, like how we know. So the white circle represents the configuration of the constellations, and Sun is part of that. So Sun is somewhere in the constellation at any point in the year. So the white, the white ring, it actually, if you look at it, I'll play it again, it actually goes through the entire globe once per day. As you can see, the constellations remain at wherever they are, they don't change. But so I'll go back here, you can pay attention to how the ring rotates one full circle. That corresponds to one day, which is what we observe when we see the sun, when we see the stars in the night. They go back and come back to the same point the next day, like it's a fixed orbit. Whereas the sun, I'll come to the part of the sun again, we'll play this twice. First time we just watch how the constellation moves. It maintains all the distances are same, but with respect to Earth, it's just moving around once and completing one orbit in one day.
Zodiac projected stereographically onto the Earth map. The Sun and zodiac revolve clockwise together once per day.
So that's the clockwise movement. The zodiac itself moves once per day, and because the sun is part of the zodiac, it also moves once per day. That's how we get day and night. Now, within the zodiac, the sun also has a counterclockwise motion. So it keeps, even though the whole zodiac itself is moving in, like in this example, if you watch the yellow spot here is the sun. So I'll play again. Now you can watch how the yellow spot keeps moving from one sign to another sign to another sign. Obviously these are all, I don't know if it's to scale or in terms of time or this thing, but while the white ring keeps moving, obviously it's not to scale because we see only 2 or 3 movements of the ring, which is like only 2 or 3 days, but then the sun moves to entire sign. So sun takes 1 month to go from one sign to another sign. So it is only to illustrate quickly without us sitting here for hours. So the white ring itself moves around the planisphere, which is the day and night. And now when I play again, watch where just focus on the yellow spot here. See that it moves between the signs as the white proceeds. I'll play without the audio for a second so it's clear to see that part. See this, it's here, now it's moving here next to the next sign, now it's moving to the next sign, now it's moving to the next sign. Like that, you can see that? So I'll play it again for those who didn't catch that. So you just watch the yellow spot, it keeps moving where the black text is. So the black text are the signs, and then it keeps moving. So because the sun is in different, so which means it's in the same spot for the day, which is why the day and night is caused, but there's no big change between successive days because the sun is in the same spot. Whereas over a course of 1 year, the sun moves all the way from Capricorn to equator to Cancer, and then back to equator, and then back to Capricorn. Because the sun's location in this, where is it right now? Right now it's somewhere here, right? So it's in the equator. Now, if you watch that, you can see that the sun, because it naturally, if you just, even though the video doesn't show fully, if you just go through it logically, you'll see that at some point it's going to be in Tropic of Cancer, some point it's going to be centered in equator, some point it's going to be in Capricorn, like that. So that's what the cause for the winter and summer seasons and the equinoxes. So when it's in the closer to equator, the day and night are equal. When it's closer to the northern hemisphere, we are going to have summer. Yeah, and for us in northern hemisphere. And when the sun is farther out, we are going to have winter, like that. So, is this part clear? Sorry, Aravinda.
One question, like what we learned from the childhood that okay, sun is in the center and earth revolves around the sun.
Right.
And the earth itself revolves, that's why the day and night comes.
Right.
When it is front of the sun, then the day is there, and when it's away from the sun, then the night
right.
comes. And similarly, whole year when the earth moves one complete circle around the sun,
right.
then that is a 1 year. So if I understand, this is different than this totally is, you are saying that earth is in the center kind of, and then sun is revolving.
Actually, for that part of the explanation, it doesn't matter which one it is, because it's relative to each other.
Okay.
Like when two people are, say one person is static, another person is turning around, you are going to see their 360 degree. It doesn't matter who turns and who stays fixed. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah.
From just that feature alone. So that's how it is. So it's it can be explained. So that's, but when you, let's say when you are in a pole star or something that doesn't move, then you look at two people moving or not moving objectively, then that's different. When you are like sometimes we see when we are in a train station and the train moves, suddenly we think, oh, our train is moving, when we are not prepared. But then actually it's the opposite track, train is moving in the opposite direction, and we think we are going in this direction, right? And then we look at the platform and then see, oh, actually we are not moving it because somebody may be buying something, and then we suddenly think that the train is, we have the experience. because the opposite train is moving, but when we look at just the opposite train, we don't know who is moving. It can't conclude because both it's relative motion. Whereas when you look at a fixed platform, then we can know, okay, we are not moving, it's that the other train is moving. So, like that. So, in that sense, yes, scientists explain it that way. So it's not wrong from just that viewpoint. But what actually happens, right? So the Bhagavatam talks about the sun's motion. So we understand that the day-nights are caused by the sun's movement. But the effect is same when you cancel out. Because of the relativity, it cancels out who moves or who doesn't move. So you may not be able to conclude that just by being on Earth.
So if I understand, like once like the whole movement happened, that is like a whole day and night circle.
Yes. Correct.
And the year?
Year is where the sun is in the white ring. If the sun is closer here, that's summer for us. No, that's winter for that's summer for us. Yes. And then when the sun is further away, because we are in North America, when the sun goes to the Capricorn, then it's summer for Australia and winter for us.
Okay.
So it depends on where it is.
So sun itself is moving in different
parts of the white ring.
White rings.
And then that movement is much, much, much slower within the white ring. That's why the seasons are so gradual.
Okay.
If that movement was also so fast, you would have seasons much faster. Right?
Yeah.
So that's the thing. And again, just to put some in context, here. Although the sun moves counterclockwise, facing the constellations with Sumeru mountain on its left, it also moves clockwise and appears to have the mountain on its right because it's influenced by the Dakshinavrata wind. So the sun is moving in one direction, but the whole zodiac is moving in the opposite direction. So sun's, by its own effort, sun is moving in one direction, but the whole zodiac is moving in the opposite direction. So both movements are happening simultaneously. So the clockwise motion corresponds to the day and night, and the counterclockwise corresponds to the year.
What is zodiac? Oh, sorry, it's a dumb question, but what is zodiac?
Zodiac is the configuration of the various stars in the space, and the zodiac is also on the same path as the sun. So it's like when you let's say when you go on a loop, you name stations in a BART or something. You say this is station, this is Fremont, this is Milpitas, this is in Oakland, like that, and then come back. So you think of these as stations which you can identify where the sun is. Think of the sun as a train moving, and then these are stations on the celestial space where you can identify where the sun is. That's one thing. But then that whole arrangement itself is moving. So with respect to the zodiac, sun is always moving in one direction only, which is counterclockwise. But the whole zodiac is moving. So that's not sun's own effort. Sun's own effort is in moving within the zodiac, and the whole zodiac is moving because of another reason. That's what it means here. So sun is actually moving counterclockwise, facing the constellations. It also moves clockwise and appears to have the mountain on its right because it's influenced by the Dakshinavrata wind. That Dakshinavrata wind moves the whole zodiac around. So that movement is orchestrated by the pole star. Actually, that's explained later on. So the entire planetary system is moving about the pole star. So that's one movement, and within that, the sun is moving opposite. So you can see that. I'm not sure. I didn't we didn't find a lot of information about that here. So back to the video here. So does it, again, I spent like several hours going through this to understand. So I'm just pointing to the resource. So you can also try to.
Yeah, it makes sense. I understand. Like so, it's not like Milpitas and all this. The Bhatish and then themselves are moving also.
Yeah, like,
they're not
yes,
just located.
Yes.
In
So exactly. So and this is why actually Parikshit asks this question in the next chapter. Actually, you can. This is one part of the Bhagavatam I so much appreciate how attentive Parikshit is. He is actually cursed to die in 7 days, and he's not impatient. He's actually absorbing all the information, processing it, and asking questions. This, can you please explain this?
So, Prabhu, and what is the zodiac in other sense? Like, okay, I understood like this is the one station in the orbit of the sun. But what is the other meanings of zodiac? Like, is like we also born in certain zodiacs? Is
Right.
Something related
Same
to
idea. So when you are born, the sun is in that particular station. So that's why you are called. I'm a Cancer. You are like Aquarius or Capricorn, whatever that sign is. That's your sign, which either sun is there or moon is there, like that. Month, yeah, because there are 12 of those, so the sun goes to each of them in 1 month. All these calculations are explained in the 21st chapter. The movement of the sun and how much it takes to go from each thing in the zodiac. All these are mentioned here. Please.
So what is so you said zodiac is a constellation, which will be a set of planets, like that?
The set of stars.
Stars.
So
stars and planet are the same or no?
They're different, yeah.
They're different.
The planets are other places. The stars are the configuration.
Okay.
And then the zodiac also gets its name based on the shape of that group of stars in that particular area. Like, if you look at it, it looks like a line, so it's called Leo. If you look at it, it looks like that. It's like how we have the imaginary form, like in the Virat Rupa, we recognize certain things with certain shapes like that. Like that, if you look at the configuration of stars there, that approximates to a Scorpio. So it's called Scorpio. It's like Gemini. So each of those has a certain pattern, and we are just recognizing it by that name, so that we all talk the same language.
The astrology aspect as well.
Yes, they're all related as well.
To
so yeah, and it's also amazing how these names, that are in the Bhagavatam, long back, same names, all these ideas. So the one we use in Western astrology and the one we use in the Bhagavatam, they match. So that means these ideas have been there for so long. Yeah. Like that, so much wealth of knowledge is there. So the Sadaputta Prabhu's argument is that the Bhagavatam is deliberately using the planisphere model to explain this particular aspect. It doesn't say that the entire Bhumandala is Earth. That's not the point. But for this explanation, you just treat the Bhumandala as the earth by ignoring the other features and try to understand these verses in this context, then it makes sense. And especially this was there's one other verse that was like a eye-opener for me in this particular context. 21, the 3 speeds it talks about. So here, while passing through the north toward the south or through the equator in accordance with the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, it is said to move slowly, swiftly or moderately. According to its movements in rising above, going beneath or passing through the equator, and correspondingly coming in touch with the various signs of the zodiac headed by Makara, days and nights are short, long or equal to one another. Right? But elsewhere we also see that the sun god traverses at a distance of this at the speed of this much 16,000 miles in a moment. So there is mentions about a single speed. So how do you understand that, is it moving in a single speed or is it moving in a multiple speed, like that? And in this particular explanation, you can see where the three speeds come from. So all the zodiac, what is that individual thing in the zodiac you call constellations, right? They are all equally spread, like 30 degrees. That's why the sun takes its equal distance to cover each in the real 3D. They're all 30 degree each. 12 times 30 is 360 degrees, so it covers a perfect circle. But look at what happens here in this white ring. Can you observe something odd? Yeah, the distances between the constellations in the zodiac, they are like closer here and far apart here. Why is that? Sorry? Exactly. So that's just an artifact of the planisphere model. Because earlier we explained why, even though Cancer and Capricorn are of the same size, because of the stretching, the ones farther to the circumference, they get stretched. So same thing applies for here, right? So that is why the speed is different. So even though it's one speed in 3D, it appears as three different speeds. So when the sun goes here, it has to cover this much distance in the same time. So it has to go faster. When the sun is here, it has to cover only this much distance in the same time. So it has to go slower. So because it goes slower, the days are longer because its sun is going slower. Yes, still 1 month, but it has to cross that distance faster or slower, and then when it's in here, it's moderate. So this is why that verse says it goes in 3 speeds.
But I'm still not able to understand, because I thought that this diagram that's pulling out the South Pole was more for conceptualizing and understanding it. But
right.
In real life, they'll still be like.
Yes, they're all equidistant in real life.
Yes. So how does it then affect reality that we see, which is that the days and night, the duration is different in winter? So how to understand that part?
Right. No, that is the same effect, because at that time, depending on where we are in the earth, the sun is closer or further. So days and night happen because of that. That is still the same, because when you are here in the northern pole,
She's asking if this is just an interpretation of the planisphere.
right.
Because the actual is the 30 degree.
Right.
Then how do we say that 3 speeds are there?
Right. So because it's in that, the sun is not on the exact, because of the tilt. I explained earlier, right? Because of the tilt, it's not the same distance. Because of where we are in the earth, we observe it. Yeah. I mean, that's my understanding again.
So, Prabhu, if I understand, like these are like 2 models. That is one model, because in one model we understand because of this projection, this going different speed, and one model we understand this going in the same speed. So it's like 2 models, as you were saying.
Right.
Which maybe not in the same time exist, but it exists
Correct.
in the.
Yes.
Is that's what is the correct understanding, that 2 models?
Right. So
one model, it goes to like very uniform speed, but if you put it to the spheric, what you call this,
right,
planosphere, so then it goes into different speed. So,
right,
but both are mentioned in the same chapter, because
yes,
these are referring to 2 models. Is that correct understanding?
That's correct.
Thank you.
So, so this is what Sadaputta Prabhu says here. The days in the northern hemisphere become shorter when the sun is beneath the equator, and the longer when the sun is above it, and thus longer days are associated with slower speed of the sun on the planisphere, and the shorter days are associated with faster speed. The Bhagavatam 5:21-3 sums up all of these points as follows. The sun makes days and night short, long and medium, while advancing according to the time with low, high and moderate speeds called north-going, south-going and middle-going. It does this in the sign Makara, etc., which are places of ascent, descent and staying midway. Note that all of these points in this statement make sense on a plane if and only if it is interpreted as a planisphere.
So,
do we understand it from the perspective of how some of the flights while going to India, they will first go towards the pole and then they take a shorter distance? So is it because the globe is shaped like that, that on the top, like that's what it was saying, closer to the North Pole and closer to the equator, that circumference of the sphere is different?
Yeah, so with respect to my flights, respect to the flights, my understanding is that
like if I try to go from here to India, falling closer to the equator, I'll have to do a longer distance than if I go to the pole, because then it's smaller in the pole.
Right.
And then go there.
Correct. So when you see, like actually this is something I used to get confused. When you see in that screen in the TV when you fly, it looks like it's taking a much longer route. Wonder why can't it just go like this? Because we see it as a straight line distance. But actually, when you see it as a globe, it really doesn't matter whether you take like this or this. Of course, up to a certain extent, they're all identical paths. Even though if you see it on a 2D screen, one may look shorter and one may look longer. But actually, they are all same if you consider the sphere aspect of it. So like that.
one question.
Yes.
So is the Prabhu said in the planisphere interpretation, the sun moves in 3 speeds. But that is an interpretation. So does the sun really move 3 speeds, or the sun moves only 1 speed?
So that statement applies only in the planisphere interpretation. The actual, in reality, the sun is moving at the constant speed that's mentioned elsewhere, the 16,000 miles per hour in the anti-clockwise, and the zodiac moves at a certain speed thing. Because of the ecliptic, the effect is seen differently because you're not like exactly the same, so the effect is different. So it's both are true. So in that sense, yes, the way we understand from science, we are not contradicting that. But the way Bhagavatam explains is, it explains the same information but in a different way. So that's the understanding. So we are not trying to say that the science is wrong here, because they both make sense. Prabhu is saying how these things in the Bhagavatam make sense while we also observe the same thing in modern science.
So the sun is moving in the same speed.
Yes.
But because of the orbit or whatever, some are longer,
Yes.
some are shorter.
Yes.
And we are using this interpretation to understand that.
Correct. They are the reason is that the slowness and the season is associated is because of the planisphere model. That's
In reality also,
right.
there is a slowness, right?
Yes. No, the reality.
There is a slowness or no?
Reality, there is the same speed, but it appears like that because of the ecliptic.
Because they could.
Yes. So that's where that explanation also makes sense. So we are not contradicting that.
So if it was a circle, there wouldn't be this
Right.
slowness.
Right. And okay, so there are lots of things. So again, we were just finishing one model. Please.
Is that when we say elliptic, does it mean that the orbit, the path on which the sun is moving, is elliptical in shape? Is that what we elliptic? What does that mean?
No, ecliptic is the path of the sun.
Is it like a
I'm not sure if
ellipse?
that
No, it's circular.
ellipse. Yeah.
It's circular, right? Because on the diagram it looks. I might look at the dictionary.
Right. Ecliptic is the path of the sun. It doesn't necessarily mean elliptic. It depends on what it is orbiting. So there are like again many there are many other things mentioned here. Unfortunately, we don't have time to go over it now. But you can look at these videos. You can just type Mysteries of the Sacred Universe or the Puttadas, and then you will get that information. I'll just finish with one video of the TOVP, where this information is shown in a very nice way. Especially I love the part where it talks about the sun's clockwise and anti-clockwise movement. It's really nicely depicted in this video. So I'll skip certain portions of it and come to this part.
Surrounding them. The seventh of these islands is Pushkara Dweep. On that island is Manasotra mountain, and on the mountain there's various cities of demigods such as Indra. Out further is Lokaloka mountain. These large elephants stand atop Lokaloka mountain to balance Bhumandala. Outside of Lokaloka mountain is Aloka Varsha, which is dark. The rays of the sun and the other luminaries extend up to Lokaloka mountain. On Manasotra mountain here on Pushkara Dweep, the sun travels above this mountain at the southernmost point of its annual orbit. Above Bhumandala is Bhuvarloka, which is the residence of the Charanas, Siddhas, Yakshas, Gandharvas, and above there is Swargaloka, beginning from the sun and extending up to the pole star Dhruvaloka. This is the moving part of the planetary display. Here we can see the sun.
So this thing here, the ring here, that's the zodiac with these various constellations. It's moved by the Dakshinavrata wind. So that's one thing. We'll see the...
And the moon moving in their chariots. The chariots are being drawn by horses moving in the anti-clockwise direction, but they're traveling.
So these are the chariots of the sun and the other moon and other planets mentioned. So
with the wheel of time moving in the clock.
See, actually it's moving so fast on this side, but because the reverse side moves faster than that, you can see that this actually ends up moving backward. So you can see that nicely here. Yeah.
Clockwise direction faster, so it looks as if they're moving backwards. Above them, the zodiac of stars, more planets, and another realm of stars. So here we can see everything moving with the Kala Chakra, circumambulating the axis that connects Mount Meru with Dhruvaloka. Above these planets, we come to the planet of the seven sages.
And then it goes on to explain other things, but I loved the part where, even though Parikshit Maharaj is asking this question, like, how come you said sun is moving clockwise, but it also has a counterclockwise? How do you understand that? So then Shukadeva Goswami explains the answer as, like in a potter's wheel, the wheel is moving in one direction, but then there are ants which are moving in the opposite direction within the wheel. So he explains it nicely. So that's what this picture is. And then Sridhar Swami in his commentary on this particular verse, he says, although leftward movement facing the nakshatra is his own motion, swagatya, the sun moves around Meru to the right daily, being blown by the pravaha wind under the control of the Jyoti chakra. So there we saw Dakshinavrata wind. He calls it as pravaha wind in this commentary. So the sun actually makes effort to, at 16,000 miles per speed, is going in this direction, but then it's actually moving backward. But because he is making that effort, that's why the seasons are coming gradually. So even though he's not attached to his result, that I'm going so fast and I'm going backwards. That's some inspiration we can take. So, yes, so all these resources are there. So you can look at our website. And again, if any of my understanding is incorrect, either you are watching online or offline later on, please feel free to correct me. My email ID is govinda.ids@gmail.com. I would be happy to learn more. Again, I'm trying to learn, and part of the way you learn better is trying to explain and share the link for this TVOP presentation. Yeah, I'll do it. So, yes, this is the actual Mayapur video, the model for that. Yes.
What is that pole that is connecting all the?
Yes.
What is that pole that is connecting all the?
Right. So that is the polar axis.
About the Jambudvipa, right? That
yes. So
central pillar.
You saw earlier how gigantic Mount Meru was, but look how tiny it is here. Because with respect to the rest of the universe, Mount Meru is like so tiny. Even though, because only 100,000 yojanas, the whole thing up to the pole star is like 3.8 million yojanas from the Bhumandala. So the dimensions are vastly different. Yeah. So the vertical line here is represents the polar axis. However, for the mechanical arrangement, these things are moved by the mechanical strings here. In as per the Bhagavatam, the movement is caused by the Dakshinavrta wind. So it's they are all connected to the pole star through the invisible winds. The rope, it's called invisible rope of wind. Maybe one time in the future, when technology advances, we can have a really big blower to simulate that wind. For now, I think they are resorting to the mechanical connections here to explain the moving parts of the planetarium.
And all those little dots.
Yeah.
Planets
I don't know. Maybe they are stars, or I am not sure.
No, not the little dots. Like
These ones.
No, the big masses like on that one.
They may be other planets. Yeah. There's not a lot of detail in this video, but I just showed this part where it was really awesome to see the sun, despite moving so fast, is actually ending up moving backwards. And that goes along with this part we discussed. So yeah, and just for the completeness sake, so we saw in this model where we ignored those features. In later model, we'll actually take all those features and explain how the whole Bhumandala is actually a map of the heavenly realm of the demigods. And so everything all the dimensions that's mentioned in the Bhagavatam, all the features, they're all true, just that we don't have access to that reality in this state of consciousness, but it's available for higher beings. And then at that, when the Bhagavatam is spoken, Shukadeva Goswami is obviously aware of all those realities and is explaining those. And then in the ancient thing, they were able to access both realities together, like the reality as we see it. For them, it's just one reality because they had access to more. It's just like, even though Shraddha Mataji is here, she's always connected with the world through Facebook and text messages and receiving and communicating in the class. So one may think, how does she, get connected? She's here. How does she know somebody from India is sending this text or somebody's saying this? But because through that technology, she's connected like that. So like that, these there are Ashta Siddhis, and these sages had the Siddhis that they can go from one realm to another realm, and everything is actually literally true from what the Bhagavatam says, but except that we don't have access to that reality. And when we understand it with that faith, we'll see that it all makes sense. Okay.
Prabhuji, I was just thinking that our Brahma has only 4 heads. And with that we have such a complicated universe. Talk about, other universes and how difficult Bhakti Vaibhav course will be in the other universes.
Good point.
Well, thank you so much for doing this research, because I'm just seeing that it'll help us, when we come after you for the Bhakti Vaibhav.
Thank you.
One question.
Yes.
So, do we understand that we are in Earth? We are in Earth. Earth is in Jambudvipa. Jambudvipa is in Bhumandala. But the Earth that we think is bigger than what we know. Because many places Earth is equated to Jambudvipa. Some places Earth is equated to Bhumandala. Right?
Right. So there's a nice picture of that. Okay, let me.
In the 14 planetary systems, isn't the Earth is the Bhumandala, right?
So this picture, you can see here. This is okay. This is a 35th minute. So if you go there, you will see that.
Where the inhabitants live for 10,000 years without suffering. This has led some scholars to suppose that Indians used to imagine foreign lands as celestial paradises. However, the Bhagavatam does refer to barbaric peoples outside India, such as Huns, Greeks, Turks, and Mongolians, who were hardly thought to live in paradise. One way around this is to suppose that Bharatavarsha includes the entire Earth globe, while the other 8 Varshas refer to celestial realms outside the Earth.
So, Earth is part of the Bharatavarsha, but even the Bharatavarsha is not fully Earth. So, yes, there is more to the Bharatavarsha than the Earth.
America, everything is in Bharatavarsha.
Yes, that's right.
Bharatavarsha is not just India.
Right. Yes, not even the full Earth. So this part here, this strip, that entire thing is Bharatavarsha, of which Earth is only one part. So this is the reality that's in the 4th model, where it's a heavenly realm. So even within Bharatavarsha, there is a earthly heaven regions, so which we don't have access to, and then these particular other Varshas are considered as heavenly realms, even in the Bhagavatam. And then he is just explaining how that fits in. So we know only a small portion of the reality, but then the greater part is vast. So which is why in the third model, why we talk about some of the rivers and things like that, which we can relate with the Earth planet. That's because it is also part of the Bharatavarsha. So, but it's not, Earth is not the complete Bharatavarsha. In one sense it is, in one sense it's greater. So depending on, that's why there are different verses that talk about the different reality. So if we understand which model it's talking from, then we can understand the information with respect to that, and there's no contradiction there.
I remember when talking about King Bharat in Bhagavatam,
yes.
Prabhupada says that it is because of this king that the name Bharatvarsha.
Correct.
So then he's talking just about this planet on which you and I are right now, right? And not about that whole Varsha.
I'm not sure, because he also says earlier this was called as Ajanaba Varsha. So I have to read that part to see whether it's just the planet Earth or that Bharatavarsha.
And in the beginning we heard about the chariots of what was the king's name? Priyavarta. That caused those 7 oceans to be made, and 7 islands and things like that. So those are not the 7 continents in this planet, right? They are the bigger continents.
They are the bigger Bhumandala features. Yeah, outside of Jambudvip. Yes. Again, who is the timekeeper? You can tell me when to stop. I know. Maybe we can discuss it afterwards. So, okay. So, thank you so much, and we like to offer our respectful obeisance to His Grace Sadaputta Prabhu. And actually, this is the month of his passing away 11 years back, and the wisdom he has given us is tremendous. So we really pray and thank him for this explanation, and thank Srila Prabhupada for giving us the Srimad Bhagavatam and helping us understand this knowledge. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, His Grace Sadaputta Prabhu ki jai.